Hello, everyone. My name is Ina. My topic is about toxic chemicals in our food. I chose this topic because I have kids of my own and I worry about what goes inside. There is a saying in my country, which literal translation goes as, your stomach is the disease house and protection is better than 1,000 treatment. This technically means you are what you eat. In the US, most people can afford to choose what to eat, or at least get free items from food banks. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we are better off when it comes to food availability than the rest of the world. Americans are getting fatter but not healthier. As we can see, according to CDC, obesity rates have been increasing since the beginning of this century. In 2017-2018, CDC estimated that over 40% of the population is obese and over 32% are overweight. So that's a 72% overweight that includes the obese. Obesity is a health concern because it increases the risks of many ailments. Nevertheless, the health of all of the American population has been deteriorating for decades. So that includes the obese, the overweight, and non overweight. We have seen a steady increase in cases of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, even mental disorders. This spike has led researchers to study the very thing that goes into our bodies, food. I am sure you have heard claims about toxic chemicals in our food. There are thousands of chemicals registered with the Environmental Protection Agency or the EPA, more than 80,000. EPA has banned only 9 chemicals since 1976. For example, asbestos, you all know that. And only a fraction of the 80,000 chemicals is regulated by the Food and Drug Association, the FDA or agency. These chemicals, even if they may not be an ingredient in our food, it can still leach into our food and our bodies. Some of these regulated chemicals are used to flavor foods like MSGs, to preserve food like sodium nitrite, to color food like red 40. Other chemicals are used in containers like BPA, or in cigarettes like formaldehyde, or in utensils like melamine, in cosmetics like dilate. Even if regulated, even if those chemicals are regulated, researchers are studying their safety, and you won't like what you'll find. There are many, many, many chemicals out there. It was very hard to choose. But because of time constraint, I will focus on BPA. BPA surprised me the most because of how much we are exposed to it. So what is BPA? It is bisphenol A. It is a chemical commonly used in plastics and resins. In the 1960s, BPA was approved to be used in food and drink containers to preserve contents inside. For example, it is used in bottled water, cereal packages, and canned food. As per the FDA, BPA is safe to be used in packaging. By measuring urine samples, the Food and Drug Association concluded that human exposure is very low. 93% of Americans have detectable BPA level in their urine. The FDA confirms this percentage, but still holds it to be safe. It claims that BPA is present in small quantities and that it is metabolized by our body and excreted fastly as urine. Now, there is this breakthrough new study that was published on December 5th, 2019, so just a few months ago. It provides evidence that the measurements relied upon by the FDA are flawed. Yes, flawed, unreliable, weak. This study raises serious concerns about the exposure levels. They found that BPA exposure is underestimated by 44 times. Previously, most studies had to rely on an indirect process to measure BPA. It used to use enzyme solutions made from snail to transform the metabolites, the BPA metabolites, back into whole BPA, and then it could be measured. Now, Gerona's new method is able to directly measure the BPA without using the enzyme solution. This means that the FDA may have regulated the BPA based on inaccurate measurements. More BPA is lingering in our body than previously thought, 44 times more. So, how does BPA affect us? Many ways. BPA is also known as endocrine disruptor. It is mimicking estrogen hormone in our body. According to the study referenced by Scientific American, by the way, it was part of our reading this semester. BPA is metabolized by our livers into something that stimulates fat cells. Therefore, it is possibly contributing to this obesity pandemic. Remember the 40% of the population that I talked about? In short, this Canadian research um, found that BPA is metabolized in a way that is changing the structure of our cells to become fat cells. This means that BPA is in fact biologically active, quote unquote, biologically active, not just being quickly excreted by our bodies, as noted by regulatory agencies. BPA has been linked to obesity, and it is even more prevalent in children. BPA has a lot of effects on our body, not just changing our cells to fat cells. BPA also affects the reproductive system of both males and females. As previously mentioned, BPA is an endocrine disruptor and it affects the hormones in the body by mimicking estrogen. The human body cannot differentiate between the natural occurring hormones and the metabolized BPA. For our body, it's just estrogen. In women, the metabolized BPA has been linked to many reproductive problems like polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, even infertility. It has also been linked to many to miscarriages. Women going in vitro fertilization had less and less eggs as the level of BPA in urine increased. Not only is BPA toxic for women's reproductive system, but also for the men. Another research focused on male partners of in vitro fertilization or IVF found that even low concentration of BPA levels affects the semen quality. The study included 315 healthy men under the age of 45 with normal concentrations of sperm. Another positive correlation was found between BPA and sperm abnormalities. Now, the study done by Radwan and others in 2018 found that as the BPA urine level increased, so did the quote unquote the total sperm sex chromosome disomy. Now, to conclude, BPA was approved to be used in food packaging materials in the 1960s by the FDA and still is. However, recent studies show that BPA is lingering in higher concentrations than previously anticipated or thought. Therefore, many of the studies referenced by the FDA, which kept this agency's approval of BPA last year, um, the BPA, those studies are faulty. BPA is very toxic, in fact, and the human body is not able to process the continuous daily exposure of this chemical. It is changing the health of people from a cellular level. This is affecting children and adults alike. BPA is playing a role in obesity, fertility, and many more ailments like cancer. So, how do you protect yourself? Now, you should eat fewer canned food, If you are not buying fresh produce, like fresh veggies and fruits, buy them frozen, better than canned. Use your own BPA-free water bottles, like stainless steel or glass. Even if BPA-free plastic bottles, there may be a concern there, but that's a different discussion for another day. Also, do not use the microwave to heat. Do not use plastic containers in the microwave to heat them up, even if they're BPA free. Do not touch receipts because receipts has a lot of BPA in them. And by the way, hand sanitizers increases BPA skin absorption. We should still use that, especially nowadays. Thank you and stay safe.